Thank you for joining today. I am Ryan Neiman, Fantasy Sports U here. Catch us on the web at fsportsu.com. Follow us on Twitter at FantasyUSports. And go on Instagram, where pictures of various cats, dogs, or anything sports related will be posted at fsportsu. Thanks again for listening. I am Ryan Neiman. We are one day away from the crazy March Madness beginning again, and it was a wild weekend. And we have George, the Maestro Hanna, joining us right now, talking about that and much more, including the NFL owners meetings. How you doing today, George?
Doing great, Ryan. Great to be back on with Fantasy Sports U. Yeah, thank you.
And we had a great time last time. And how is your bracket shaping up right now for you? Is it in complete shambles?
No, it's hard to be humble. The first round, I was 27-5.
Oh, wow.
Second round, I was 12-4. I only lost Duke, lost Syracuse, lost Kansas, and lost Villanova. So my bracket is really strong, and in all the pools that I'm in, I'm doing very, very well. I only create one bracket, Ryan. In the past, I used to have 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden I'd be rooting for, let's say, VCU, and then I'd find out that I picked Stephen F. Austin. So I stayed with one bracket, and I got fortunate this year, and I'm really doing well.
My problem is I second-guessed myself too many times. I had a lot of those upsets. I had Dayton, I had Stephen F. Austin, but last second, because I had those other brackets, I changed them last second, and now I find myself dead last in my pool at work.
Well, you know, some of those games, the Stephen F. Austin game, if you saw that, it was a 4-point play at the end, and it appears on the replay that the guy from VCU never even touched him. I mean, it's just some of those games just they just go on a it's inches and seconds is what I describe them as. Ryan, the games of sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, it's all inches and seconds. It's the difference between being a winner and then just being the rest of the pack.
Of the current Sweet 16 teams, who was the most surprising to land here, you think?
Oh, Dayton was.
Mm-hmm.
Dayton was certainly surprising. I don't know whether you saw in the Dayton Daily News, they had a headline, which was a real shot at Ohio State. The headline was, "The University of Dayton."
Oh, wow.
They took great pleasure in that. And they're coached by a Pittsburgh. You know, there's a lot of Pittsburgh connections in this March Madness this year. They were coached by Archie Miller, who's the younger brother of Sean Miller. Mm-hmm. Both of them are from Blackhawk, which is up in the northwestern part of the state. And their father is John Miller, who is one of the greatest high school basketball coaches in the history of Pennsylvania.
Do you think Dayton has enough to make it to the Elite Eight over Stanford then?
No. No, I don't think so. I think Stanford's a little too big for them. Stanford has this young kid, Chasson Randall, who's averaging about 18 points a game, and I just think that Stanford has too much for Dayton. You wouldn't look at it maybe with their records, and if you take a look, Dayton was 10-2 in their last 12 games. Stanford was only 3-4. Mm-hmm. So if you look at some of those things, you say, well, maybe Dayton's on a roll, but I just don't think they have enough. They don't have enough power to beat Stanford.
What I thought was remarkable about Dayton in that first game against Ohio State, that Jordan Cyber kid, he was recently on the Ohio State program, but he transferred over to Dayton because he was not receiving any playing time. So those type of stories develop in March Madness that makes it even better to watch.
Well, you know the story of Aaron Kraft, don't you?
Yes.
Aaron Kraft was originally recruited by Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And he was the one who blew the whistle on the infamous barbecue at Bruce Pearl's house.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know about that story.
They do know about it already?
No, I don't think a lot of people know about that story, that Aaron Kraft did that.
Yeah, he did it, mm-hmm. And then he ended up at Ohio State. So, kids move from one place to another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my bracket, I still have my Final Four intact. as I still have Wisconsin, Florida, Michigan State, and Arizona. Who was in your Final Four?
Wisconsin, Michigan State, Arizona. Well, Wisconsin and Arizona are in the same West bracket, Ryan.
Oh, my bad. I was looking at the wrong one.
No wonder you're last at the Office Bowl.
It was, I'm sorry, it was Michigan State, Florida, Wisconsin, and Louisville. Yeah, that's probably why I am last in my office pool.
Well, my four, I've got Florida, of course. It's a common pick. I mean, it's tough to pick against them. I don't think that UCLA is strong enough to beat them. Florida's got 4 seniors. They only give up 54 points a game. But believe me, UCLA has the talent. They've got this kid you got to look at, Zach Levine. He's a freshman. He's 6'5". He's number 14. I really, really like him. Of course, they have other good players too, but I really like Zach Levine. But they just don't seem to have enough for Florida. The Weir brothers, the 2 brothers that play inside for UCLA, they're not tough enough to handle Young and Ugarte. So I like Florida there. Surprisingly, I like Iowa State in the Final Four. I'm looking this weekend for Virginia to knock off Michigan State. And then I'm looking at Iowa State to beat Virginia and for Iowa State to be my second team in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually like UConn over Iowa State because Shabazz Napier has been on a reckless tear from the tournament, their conference tournament, into the NCAA tournament. And he has the feeling of a Kimball Walker when UConn won that national championship back a few years ago.
Sure. My only question about that is UConn is primarily Shabazz Napier and maybe Boatwright.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that Shabazz Napier can carry this team. He had an exceptional night, no doubt about that. But UConn has lost twice to Louisville in their last 4 regular season games. They lost once to Louisville a couple of weeks ago by 33 points, 81-48.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're due for a bad night, and I think that bad night can come as soon as Iowa State cuts off Napier. A little sidelight about Iowa State, DeAndre Kane, who's their star?
Yes.
Was one of the players on the high school state championship here in Pennsylvania in 2007. 2 other members of that team were D.J. Kennedy, who went on to star for St. John's. He's now in the NBA Development League. And the center on that team was DeJuan Blair, who's now at the Dallas Mavericks. So there's a heck of a lineup for you for state champions in Pennsylvania. DeJuan Blair, D.J. Kennedy, and DeAndre Kane.
You have a great pedigree and a surprising pipeline from that state.
Well, we used to have better basketball out in Pittsburgh years and years ago. The quality's gone down, or rather the quantity's gone down, but not the quality. And of course, Philadelphia just is in a class by itself at turning out great basketball players.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Iowa State to come out of there in my Final Four. I like Arizona to come out, and I think that they'll beat Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin has to get by Baylor, and not a lot of people believe in that one. I think it's going to be a slow-down game. It's going to be a much slower tempo, and I like Bo Ryan when the tempo is slow. He plays great defense. His teams are always organized. Both of these teams are hot right at the end of the season. Wisconsin's 10-1, Baylor's 10-2. I think that if Wisconsin stops Brady Heslip, he's the best three-point shooter in the country, and he's playing great ball for Baylor. I think that if Wisconsin can stop them, I think that they'll move into that spot. And then, of course, I think that Arizona will beat them to go into the Final Four. And then, of course, before I even get to that one, let's just take the Michigan-Tennessee game. I just really think that Michigan has a little too much for Tennessee. Mm. They've got Nick Stauskas, Levert, Robinson. These are players, and they played in just a tough Big Ten regular season schedule. I really like them. And they lost McGarry, too, if you remember, after 8 games.
Yes, that foot injury he had.
Right.
Back injury, I'm sorry.
Coming out of there, and then, of course, the game is the Kentucky-Louisville game.
That game I cannot wait for. Even though I was pulling for Wichita State to beat Kentucky, this is the game that everybody wants to watch this weekend.
This is the game. Between the two of these guys, between Rick Pitino, who I really love as a coach, but I'm very disappointed in his personal life and some of the things that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it only from a basketball perspective. And John Calipari, who's also another Pittsburgh guy. He grew up in Moon Township, went to a little Division III school, Clarion, up in the northwestern part of the state. And, of course, you know all about him in Massachusetts and Memphis.
Yes.
But between the two of them, these guys, Ryan, have 1,300 wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rick Pitino's got 693, and Calipari has 594. That's a lot of wins.
It's going to be a great coaching game, too, it's going to be like a chess match, basically, who's going to have the upper hand, have the right moves and the wrong moves. I've never been a big fan of Calipari, but in those final moments against Wichita State, he showed that he was a better coach and really outcoached Greg Marshall in those last 50 seconds of that game.
Well, that's why I mentioned the 594 wins.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come just by showing up every night on the gym floor and having the buzzer begin and you just throw your players out. He can coach. He's got 5 freshmen starting for him. You know, there's 2 big players, Julius Randle and Willie Cauley-Stein. These are good. This is a very, very good team. And I think it's sometime, in one of your podcasts, it might be interesting to discuss the philosophy of this once and done versus players who stay longer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, there's a lot to be said about coaching new players every year. There's a certain enthusiasm. There's a certain interest that they have. You start coaching a team that's got 4 or 5 seniors, and I'm sure that some guys out there have coached will tell you sometimes those seniors start to think that they know a lot more than the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be very, very careful about who you keep on your team. If you're going to keep seniors, they've got to be people that are going to contribute and that are going to help the program. And in a lot of these major programs, a lot of the guys that aren't playing well don't stay as seniors because they can see the handwriting on the wall.
Yeah, having one and done kind of keeps the coaches on their toes because you want to get that full potential from a Jabari Parker, a Julius Randle before they're gone.
Right. But, Louisville, don't underestimate them. They've got Montrezl Harrell, and this guy is a real man's man. He's a Patrick Young of Florida-type guy. And this guy is tough underneath. He can score, and he can cause havoc. In addition, of course, they've got Russ Smith, and they've got Luke Hancock, who it appears that through this year cannot miss from the three-point area.
No.
You leave him anywhere near alone, he can't miss. And Louisville hit a stride. They've been killing people. As I told you, they beat UConn a couple of weeks ago by 39 points. They beat Rutgers, of course, who is no competition, but they beat them like 50 a couple of weeks ago. The one thing, though, that you have to remember is Kentucky beat Louisville 73-66 earlier this season. And don't think that Calipari is going to use that.
No.
I like Louisville. I think Las Vegas has put them as a 5-point favorite, and that's the second biggest spread outside of Arizona over San Diego State. And I think there's a reason for that, right? And I think that they think that Louisville is going to beat them. Of course, the key is that the Harrison brothers have to beat the press.
Mm-hmm.
And the press is going to come, Ryan.
And their defense has been stellar, too, throughout the season for Louisville, as opponents are only averaging 60 points against them this season.
And this is a team now that if they're behind, they can press you to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're ahead, they can beat the press. If you're going to press them, they know how to beat the press, and they can press. I love a team that presses.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Pitino's style of basketball. Just as I told you, there are some of the things he's done in the past that I just don't feel good about.
No.
Now, who is next? Okay, so there's my 4: Arizona, Louisville, Florida, Iowa State. And I think that Florida will beat Iowa State. I think Louisville will beat Arizona, and I think Louisville is going to win it 2 years in a row.
So you don't see any upsets at all this weekend?
Well, who would you think would be an upset? I don't. Virginia over Michigan State. I think Virginia's going to beat Michigan State. Mm-hmm. All the talking heads on every television program you've watched are picking Michigan State. I like Virginia. Virginia's 18-1 in the last 19 games. They've got Mitchell, they've got Joe Harris and Brogdon. These guys are going to be in the pros. These are professional players. The beauty of watching Michigan State is Tom Izzo's relationship with these players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's taking kids, Ryan, out of Flint, Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan. He's taking tough, hard kids. He brings them into that program, and there is a certain love there that you can see that's legitimate. And I think it gets them to play way, way above their potential. He's got Harris. He's got Adrian Payne, 6'10". Adrian Payne's 23 years old. A big difference when you're in there. And one surprising stat that just has me blown away is that Brandon Dawson, back scoring again, he's been averaging 16 points a game. If he scores 7 points a game, the Spartans are 19-0.
Yeah, he's a spark for them. Since he's been back, he's just been...
Yes, he has.
Mm-hmm.
But how about that stat? If he just scores 7 points, every time he scores more than 7 points, the Spartans win 19-0. Now, you could say that's an upset, but I just think that Virginia's got they got a defense. They've got players that can, like Mitchell and Harris. These guys can play. I think they can slow the ball down. I think they can take Michigan State out of the game, and I think they've got enough beef underneath that they can stop their rebounding. How about UConn? Do you think UConn's going to be Iowa State?
I actually like UConn a lot, mostly because Goran Ding, he's out for Iowa State, and I just love Shabazz Napier, what he's been doing, and basically carrying that team on their shoulders. And Ryan Boatwright, this team just reminds me a lot of that team when Kimball Walker carried them to the Final Four and eventually winning the national championship against Butler.
Yeah. Well, he just had a superior tournament, Kemba Walker, from the beginning.
Yes.
I just think that if Napier guards Kane is going to take that ball into the middle, and you know how officiating is this year in basketball. He's going to take that ball into the middle, and he's going to drive that ball on Napier, and I think he's going to get either Napier or Boatwright in foul trouble. And if they are in foul trouble and they come out of the game for a while, I just don't think that UConn's strong enough. And one other thing, I think that when Napier leaves, that the UConn program is going to go down a little.
Yeah, Kevin Holly?
Yeah, Kevin Holly.
Yeah, he's the head coach over there. Done a heck of a job when Calhoun went out. But like you said, they don't have a lot of good recruits coming in right now.
But Boston College is thinking of asking Calhoun to coach.
That'd be interesting.
Yes, it really would. And then just to go down, I don't see San Diego State beating Arizona. Arizona beat them 69-60 earlier in the year. I think that San Diego State is primarily Xavier Thames. I think if they stop him, they'll stop them. And the second thing is, Arizona's number one in adjusted defensive efficiency. Duke was number one in offensive efficiency, and Arizona held that to 66 points. It's just a good team. They've got Aaron Gordon, and they're led by another Pittsburgh connection, T.J. McConnell, their point guard. He played here for Chartiers Valley, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh. Took his team to the state championship, then went and played at Duquesne. Played at Duquesne for a couple of years and then just felt that he wanted to take a step up. He moved out there with Sean Miller, the Pittsburgh connection, and watch him play. He is a pass-first point guard, and he shares the ball, and they've got some real players.
You have Pittsburgh and everything this season in March Madness.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's more of a connection this year than there ever has been, and of course I like that. You know, it's good for our area. It shows that at least still we're alive somehow. I think that Baylor has a chance to beat Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's a 3-point favorite, and in this tournament, 3 points is a lot. Of course, the Louisville, Kentucky game, and then Tennessee might have a chance against Michigan, but I think Michigan's just a little too strong. Stauskas is 14 for 28 from the 3-point line, Ryan. That's 50%.
That's more in my entire life I go in the backyard I've made.
That's more shots than you've made from the 3-point line ever. You know, while we're touching on this, I want to just divert for a moment, even though it does apply to the, what would you call them? You call them the Big 12 now. They're going to be the Big 14, but the Big 10. I read where a couple of Illinois legislators want to add a third Illinois team to the Big 10, 12, 14, whatever you want to, along with Northwestern and Illinois. What is that? What's the reason for that?
I think they're trying to add, it was either Illinois State or one of those smaller schools. I am not too sure why they would do that because those schools wouldn't bring in that much revenue. But yeah, I read about that too. It'll be interesting to see why they even want to add another Illinois school to it.
When I look at the possibilities, I didn't even consider Illinois State. I looked at maybe would it be Bradley?
Mm-hmm. That's another Missouri Valley Conference school.
Yeah, Southern Illinois.
So it'll either be Southern Illinois. They're looking at Northern as a strong possibility because of their athletics in the recent past in football. So either Illinois State, Northern, or
have a real strong, deep presence in basketball for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would be DePaul or Loyola, would it? They wouldn't take.
No, not DePaul because they're not that great in athletics besides like soccer and lacrosse and women's basketball. They actually upset Duke, but.
So you're saying they're thinking of either Illinois State or Northern Illinois?
Yeah, I'm guessing likely Northern Illinois because of how strong they've been in the MAC recently.
To me, that's a reach to have them included with all those other Big Ten schools, although Rutgers was a reach, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think they'll fit in very well. Just don't have that same type of program to keep up with those bigger schools.
But I was surprised. I was surprised to see that, definitely. I just wondered what their thinking was behind it. So there we are. I'm looking at Louisville repeating. Who do you have, Ryan?
In my championship game, I have Florida against Louisville as well. I have Florida winning it all. I think Billy Donovan's just done a tremendous job this season with really no stars on his team besides Marcus Frazier. Just been getting a lot from that roster, but as I want to go back to the upsets, I really like this Tennessee team against Michigan with Jordan McRae and Jarnell Strokes. I really think they could hang in with Michigan to the very end of that contest.
But what do you like about them? What about their team do you really like?
I think that play-in game really just jumpstart this team. Great on offense and just dismantled everybody so far in the tournament and just seemed to find the right, just turn it on at the right time, I feel.
Yeah, okay, I can understand that. I just don't, I just don't see that. To me, it's a matter of coaching. You're looking at a guy like Beeline who's got 442 wins. Mm-hmm. He's been at West Virginia. He's been this guy's coached around. He's got a 1-3-1 zone defense that he's known for. And it's tough to beat if you haven't played against it a lot.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game.
Yeah, so you like Tennessee, huh?
Yeah, I love that Jordan McRae guy averaging 19 points a game. Strokes has been averaging 14 throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
And
Grant Stokes is certainly, I think that Stokes has been averaging a double-double, too.
Yeah, correct. He has 10 boards during the tournament as well.
And they've got some talent.
Yeah.
Some talent, that's for sure.
It'll be a fun weekend again. Hopefully one of our brackets stays intact. And
well, seeing that we have Florida and Louisville, are you going to take Florida?
Yeah, I have Florida winning it all.
Okay, when we get back, I'll make you a little bet here on a Primanti sandwich from Pittsburgh against something that you can come up with, a Chicago deep dish pizza.
There we go. That'll be a perfect bet.
There you got it.
I think the delivery cost will be more than both of our foods that we want to deliver. I'll send you a gift card instead.
Okay, you got it. Great.
Now we're going to shift gears to the NFL. The owners' meeting is happening this week, and they're going through a lot of rule changes. Some of them are weird and peculiar. Some of them they have to definitely think about. One of them is they want to expand the playoffs, and they want to make the postseason field from 12 to 14 teams. And even your Mike Tomlin said he's in favor of it, and he doesn't think it weakens division in any form or fashion. How do you feel about the potential expansion for the postseason?
It's certainly financial, and if they want to put another two teams in there, that's fine with me. What it'll do is maybe create a bye for another team. What I found, though, is that some of the decisions that were made here, if you go back and look, they're almost self-serving. Mm-hmm. Why would Mike Tomlin not want another team in there when he finished 8-8 and almost would have made the playoffs?
Yep.
I also found Bill Belichick's suggestion to move the goalposts 5 feet higher self-serving too. I don't think it does anything to improve the game.
No.
But I think Belichick is getting his point made because last year he got beat by the Ravens, if you remember, 31-30, when Justin Tucker kicked a field goal that was questionable. Mm-hmm. You remember that?
Yeah, barely made it.
Yeah. Well, it went right over the goalpost. You couldn't tell whether it was in or out.
Yes.
And, of course, Belichick went after the official, and he was fined $50,000 for touching the official afterwards. I think that, he was doing that maybe to make a point. I see that with some of these guys. If you want to talk about goalposts, the Maestro suggestion is that they make the goalposts like a box. I don't care how high the goalposts are, make them as a box so that the kicker has to kick inside the box.
So it's kind of like the arena football goalpost, kind of.
Yeah, but I don't think the arena goalposts are a box, are they?
They're narrower than the NFL ones.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I agree that, I toyed with a couple of things. One was making the goalposts narrower. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned that one of the other times I was on, is that after 40 yards, if you wanted to go for 4 points, that they would narrow the goalposts from 18.6 to 9 feet 3 and have the guy kick through that for a 4-pointer. But I think if you made the goalposts a box and you did the same thing, I think that this would really make the kickers more accurate. At least it would change the game. Extending the goalpost 5 feet doesn't change the game for me at all.
And they also want to push the PATs back to 25-yard line because extra point kicks were made 99% of the time last season. And it really gives a choice of teams to go for 2 or kick a 45-yard field goal. Do you agree with the pushing the PAT back and how that impact us in fantasy football?
Well, if you take a look at the extra points last year, there were 1,261 extra points kicked and 1,256 made. That's 99.6%. So it's pretty obvious that it's automatic. If they want to make it challenging and they want to remove kicking from it, moving it to the 25, moving it to the 14, if it goes to the 40, and all these other crazy things, the Maestro has a different suggestion. His suggestion is to take the kick out of the extra point entirely. And if you score a touchdown for 6 points, you have two choices. Either you can move the ball to the 3-yard line and score from there from 1 point, or move the ball to the 10-yard line, and if you score from there, you get 2 points. Run or pass, no kick.
Why are you not at the NFL meetings right now? You should be proposing this to them.
I know I should. I should, because I'll tell you one thing. They wouldn't be moving the kickoff to the 40-yard line.
No.
I don't understand that. Fewer touchbacks, fewer returns, collisions. Here's another one that I think is self-serving. This was suggested by the Redskins. The Giants just picked up Trendon Holiday from Denver. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that stands out about Trendon Holiday is this. A couple of years ago, he was the fastest time at the Combine, 4.2. He ran a 40.
Oh, wow.
So why wouldn't the Redskins want to kick off from the 40? The Giants just paid a lot of money for Holiday, and you know what? He's useless now.
Yeah, it definitely eliminates special teams and a player like Trendon Holiday.
How about Percy Harvin?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you saw Percy Harvin in the one game he played last year. What did he do, run the kickoff back 56 yards?
Yeah, he did one in the Super Bowl for a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's right. I forgot about that. He did run that back. They want to eliminate overtime in preseason. Why not just eliminate preseason?
Yeah, I feel like exhibition games should just be 3 games, that's it. Because
well, you can't call them exhibition games, Ryan, remember.
They call it preseason?
Preseason. You know, they're not exhibitions.
Mm-hmm.
They're preseason where you pay full price for the preseason games. However, they are doing one thing that the Maestro really likes, and is that they're experimenting with the 20-point or the 20-yard extra point. And I think that if they did more of this in the preseason games, it would, number one, make the preseason games at least a little more interesting. Mm-hmm. I said to my buddy, let's go down to the game today. They're trying out 50-yard field goals for 4 points. They're trying out no timeouts. They're trying out this or that. They're experimenting with this or that. You know, I'd be interested in going to see them, but to just see a bunch of guys coming out there playing just to take up a Thursday evening or a Saturday doesn't interest me. And then they want to take the cuts, and they want to cut one time from 90 to 53. Mm-hmm. You know what that would mean? You'd never see the starters.
No, never.
You know, so what would be the reason for going there anyway? And they want to put cameras on all the boundary lines and sidelines and everything. Ryan, they should have been doing this years ago. We look at a game on television, and what's the one thing that you love out of anything else? The 10-yard line laser that goes across the field.
Yep, I'm completely lost without it.
Honest to God, you go and watch a game without it, and you say, whoa! Now, you mean to tell me that they can, and in fact, this leads to a larger thing. I really think that the entire game should be use more technology. I really think that this game is simple enough that if every team in the league gave me $1 million and I had $32 million, I can guarantee you that I would change that game entirely by the next football season.
Mm-hmm. Because there's so much money in this game, you really want the best product on the field.
And if you want it, take the officials off. Mm-hmm. Now, you've seen enough sports science and everything on television to know that these guys can analyze everything, like I said, to the last inch, to the final second. You know, they can figure out what the area of coverage of Calvin Johnson is when he goes up for a pass. They can do everything, and they certainly can do that with the game. First of all, they can put little sensors in the field and a sensor in the tip of the football. I think I talked about this the last time. Use as many cameras as they possibly can. Take as much of the human error out of it. Now they're saying that if there's a questionable call, did they pass this, that they would go to some place in some central place in New York or whatever? Did they pass that?
They are thinking about it as they're consulting with like how hockey does.
Yeah,
they have the headquarters on replay.
I don't think they're thinking about it. I think they decided on it.
Let me see. Let me double check that. They're voting on it. Oh no, you are correct. They enabled referees to go to the headquarters and look at the replay, but it says the final call, however, will be determined by the game referee. So even whatever the headquarters says, the game referee will still have a say as to what the final call will be.
Oh, I say to that. Mm-hmm. Oh, the game referee is going to overturn the guy in the sky?
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I think, if you remember me telling you that last year in the Steeler game that they were playing at Heinz Field, obviously the opposing team was dressed in white, so it was very obvious the call. The official was over at the visiting team sideline talking to the coach, and behind the coach was a guy dressed in what you would call, if you're an old Seinfeld fan, a Gore-Tex jacket that really stood out. It was a quilted jacket. He was in blue. He had a blue ski cap on, and he had a headset. He was talking to somebody, and as the official was talking to the coach, he was standing behind the coach. He motioned to the official with a thumbs-up sign. The official said to the coach, "No, sorry, the play isn't it," went back out, and that was it.
So you think we're going to see more of something like that then?
I think that they should do it with the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
I told you, if you give me this $32 million, I'll get some techies here, and what they'll do is they'll input every pass interference call that's ever been made in the NFL as they have records. And right away, that camera can detect in a second or two whether that's a interference call or not. Because what I'm tired of, Ryan, is I'm tired of watching these receivers and defensive backs complain on every single missed pass.
Yes. They seem to argue with the refs every single chance they have.
Everyone.
Yeah.
You know, if it's across the middle, if it's a fly pattern, if it's a post pattern, if it's just a short hook, they complain on every play. Mm-hmm. And I'm just tired of it. I don't care what they do, but I hope that they solve it. You know what? They didn't even address it.
No.
What they addressed was Jimmy Graham, dunking the ball over the goalpost.
That's such a wasted time. I could not believe that they're banning dunking on a goalpost. Just a silly rule change. It seems like they're calling it the no fun league is what they're calling it again.
Yeah.
Just because of stupid.
Well, it gives some of these guys things to write about.
Yeah.
They can write a cute little column after it's over or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did they outlaw the blind side hits by interior linemen?
They did the penalties for rolling up on a player's leg from the side. That's the one that they passed recently.
Why doesn't the NFL require every one of its offensive linemen to wear knee braces?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes no sense. You want to make sure all these players are safe.
And do you think it's going to slow them down, change their game, be foreign to them? I guess not, because every major college football program in the United States, their offensive linemen wear knee braces.
Mm-hmm.
So why would it be such a big change?
Yeah, I never understood that. Because the NFL, like you said, they're moving kickoffs up more to prevent collisions and freak concussion injuries. But why wouldn't they worry more about situations like this?
You know, the Steelers guard, Dave DeCastro, took out their star center, Marquise Pouncey, in the first game, trying one of those cutback blocks, and he missed the blocker and hit his own man, took him out for the year.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That was Jack McNella's job. They hired Jack McNell as the offensive line coach. He was there 1 year. They got rid of him. Now they replaced him with Mike Munchak. Mm-hmm. I can guarantee you he's going to change the blocking schemes. He's not going to the blocking scheme again. Put their own man out. I just don't get it. I thought you were trying to protect, the players.
Yeah, you want to.
Why not that?
Yeah, you would think with all these lawsuits they're receiving from all these brain issues that a lot of players are having with the CTE, that they would try to reduce more lawsuits in the future.
I find it shocking that they don't take more of an interest in finding out the problems that these ex-football players are having, Ryan, and address them. Take a look at the concussion issue. A guy like Mike Ditka has championed this concussion issue. Take a guy like Tony Siragusa, who I see advertising the pens every day on TV. He can't hold it. Why can't we address this? Take a look at Joe Theismann. He can't even make it there when he's there.
Nope.
How about Jimmy Johnson? He can't even make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So we ignore these. I'm saying it kiddingly, Brian. We can't get these three guys. Tony Siragusa, Joe Theismann, and Jimmy Johnson, three guys that I admire, they all have problems.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't blame the NFL for those.
No, they'll blame their wives for those problems.
But what's the reason for not stopping a clock on a sack?
Yeah, that's another rule change I want to go through is have clock continue after that. I never understood why the clock has to stop when a quarterback gets sacked. I feel like it's kind of like a timeout for the team, too.
Well, let me suggest this. A guy runs Jay Cutler goes back and he runs a 60-yard pattern downfield to Alshon Jeffries, and he gets nailed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's down on the ground. Now they're going to keep the clock running. So they start the 35-second clock the moment that the whistle blows. It takes him a little while to get up, to shake it off a little, to get back into the huddle and call his plays. By the time that 10 seconds might go by, they turn off the communication system with 14 seconds to go. So what you've reduced him to is now 10 or 11 seconds of discussing with the with the offensive coordinator the next play to call when he just had his clock run.
Do you think they should maybe add additional timeouts, like more injury timeouts then for situations like that?
No, I just think that they should just play it by ear. The official should use his judgment to see, what's it take for this guy to get up and whatever, and then start the clock. He can start that clock and circle his arms anytime he wants to. I don't know why that has to be clarified.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a bigger rule they never addressed. Can you explain to me what's the down by contact rule?
You mean when a player gets like a fumble or a reception and...
That's right.
Basically, what I know from it is...
When's he down by contact?
It's the elbow or the knee or the back has to be down by contact.
Is down by contact reviewable?
I'm not sure, actually. I don't think it is. Actually, it is.
It isn't.
Yeah.
So why don't you create a rule where you can define what down by contact is? I saw this happen in the game last year where there were two similar down by contact situations, and they decided differently in both places.
It reminds me of the Calvin Johnson rule, kind of.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about an owners' meeting, and you're talking about rules that have to be addressed. I didn't see anything that really had an impact on the game.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Not yet. They're focusing on dunking on goalposts instead.
Yes, exactly right. I just don't see it. I will tell you one thing, though, for the people that listen in, if they want to find a good website that will try and touch on or explain the salary cap, it's one called PatsFans, PatsFans. This guy up there in Boston has pretty much, from a layman's viewpoint, analyzed and been able to explain the salary cap and how it works. Because I believed for years that the New England Patriots have circumvented the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it with this term. Have you ever heard of LBTE and NLBTE?
No, I have not.
They create cash incentives.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is named LBTE, which is cash incentives likely to be earned. And there are things like they give them bonuses or cash incentives for weight requirements, off-season workouts, mini camps. And then there's another one, which is NLBTE, cash incentives not likely to be earned. And they, in the financial deal that they make with them, they put in performance-based incentives that the player hasn't achieved in the past as part of the salary cap. If they don't achieve them, they don't have to carry them over until the next year, which reduces them against what the salary cap is.
See, now these are the issues that the NFL owners meeting should be looking at instead of dunking.
Tony Siragusa, it depends.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham, whatever, or extending the goalpost 5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to change the game?
Not at all. Maybe for the average fan will be excited over that, but not me, and I might draft a kicker in my first round if they do change that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think they've done anything that's going to really affect fantasy football.
No, not yet.
In fact, I took a look at fantasy football after I graded out the free agents for this year and took a look at what they need in the draft. And I've looked at them. There's only 15 teams that I'm going to draft players from this year. And 9 of them or 10 of them come from the NFC. And only 5 come from the AFC.
Oh, wow.
And 3 of them come from the division that you play in, the Packers, the Bears, and the Lions.
That's gonna be a very interesting division for us this season, especially with the Bears getting Jared Allen today.
Which was a great pick, no doubt. They took their grade from B to A for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that scares me, too, about the Bears is that the Lions sitting where they are at that 10th, 11th position, they just scares me to no end, because if they pick up Mike Evans or they pick up Sammy Watkins falls, or if they can pick up maybe Marquise Lee, you know, this is going to really be an offense to fear. Well, I've been saying all along that I think that the Bears are going to draft a defensive tackle, a defensive lineman, you know, like this Jernigan or maybe Aaron Donald, who was who was a real star at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really look at it, what you're saying is, if they draft Jernigan, what you're saying the Bears have done this year is they've really replaced Peppers and Melton with Jared Allen and a young Tim Jernigan or an Aaron Donald. Mm-hmm. So I think that the Bears fans have to evaluate, has this been a fair trade, a good trade for us? Are we better off with Allen and Jernigan than we were with Julius Peppers and Henry Melton? I think so.
Yeah, I definitely think so. They solidified that front a lot with all those question marks that they had. Because Henry Melton, he's coming off of that ACL injury, and you're really unsure what you're going to get from him.
Absolutely. And and don't forget, you get a lot of youth. Jernigan and Aaron Donald are good players.
Yep.
And you're also picking up 11.5 sacks from a guy who knows the division.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine what his 2 games against the Vikings are going to be like?
Oh, they're going to be great. I can't wait for the Packers-Bears game when Peppers
that's another one.
Plays the Bears. And
can you imagine Allen going after Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, that'd be so fun to watch.
Right. And that's another team. I told you, I'm only drafting players from 15 teams. I'm not looking at any others. And the only ones in the AFC are going to be the Patriots, the Bengals, the Colts, the Broncos, and the Chargers.
No Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, Jaguars, I don't have quarterback.
No, they have nothing on that team. They're just rotting away. Until they move to L.A., that's my prediction, is they're going to move to L.A. eventually.
I think I discussed that with you before.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It looks more and more like there's a possibility that the Raiders might move, too. Because Mike Davis has been saying that he thinks the Oakland fans still want to play the Jets in the Meadowlands. And he says those days are over.
Mm-hmm.
The stadium. You know, they want to move out of that stadium. And he sees the 49ers moving down to Santa Clara next year. And there was even a suggestion that he might even play his games there. So it's just an extension of Al Davis and how he felt that maybe Oakland is in the mix now. And I think St. Louis is in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be a very fun season in fantasy football and the NFL. Hopefully, all these rule changes are more entertaining than what they're talking about right now. But, George, I appreciate you being on the show again, and I look forward to having you on again, talking more about fantasy football, too.
Well, thanks. You know, I enjoy it. I love every moment talking to you, and I enjoy exchanging ideas from different parts of the country, from the East here and the Midwest. Even though we share very similar cultures, there is a little difference in the way we play football. Although I'll tell you what, Pennsylvania couldn't prove it. In the March Madness, there's 44 players from California.
44, wow.
You know how many from New York and Kentucky?
Half of that or more?
9 each.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow.
In the Sweet 16, 9 from New York, 9 from Kentucky, 44 from California. The next are Indiana, Michigan, Illinois got 18, Texas, Florida, Ohio, and Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. You would think that those areas would have a lot more people, but I guess not.
Especially New York.
Yeah, especially New York.
It was great fun.
All right, thanks again, George, and hopefully your bracket doesn't get busted over this weekend.
No, you don't mean that. I know you don't mean that. The next time we talk, don't forget, the Primanti sandwich versus the Chicago fish pizza.
Let's go Florida, then. Oh, thanks again, George. I appreciate being on.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great one.
You too.
That was George the Maestro Hanna joining us right now, talking about the March Madness beginning tomorrow and all those NFL rule changes that will be going on. And hopefully it's more entertaining than that stupid rule change of players not be able to dunk on goalposts. Well, thanks again for listening. I am Ryan Neiman. Follow us on the web at sportsu.com. Catch us on Twitter at FantasyU Sports. And follow us on Instagram at sportsu. I am Ryan Neiman. Thanks for listening. Have a great one.